welcome back to PA Chalk Up. I'm your host Manny, and today we have Kyle. Hi, Kyle. How we doing?
Pretty good, man. How you doing?
I'm good. We were obviously speaking a little bit off camera, just chatting shit. But if you let us know who you are, what you do, and how you got to where you are.
Yeah, how's it going? I'm Kyle Casillas. I'm a strength and conditioning coach with Sanford Sports in Grand Forks, North Dakota. Um, Joined the Marine Corps in 2003, got out in 2012, kind of found my way into strength and conditioning from there, making my way from San Diego to Hawaii to the University of Hawaii. From there, moved to North Dakota and started with Exos and Ultra Health System here, and then came on board with Sanford. I've been here since with Sanford for the last 3 years as their lead strength and conditioning coach, and currently working with athletes from the high school level to the collegiate level, as well as with adult clients and youth athletes.
As a strength coach and a business owner, my time is quite limited. My favorite part about being a coach is the fact that I get to interact with athletes and be with athletes and really coach them. That's why I use TeamBuildr. I remember the days of searching for exercises, manually typing them in, and spending hours on spreadsheets and organizing my programs. This tends to be quite tedious and a lot of time consuming, which meant that I wasn't able to coach as much. So now for my business, TeamBuildr is a non-negotiable. It's an all-in-one programming platform that lets you create and deliver workouts to your athletes just in a few clicks. With TeamBuildr, I can customize programs, track athletes' progress in real time, and generate performance reports. My athletes get full ownership of their progress and can even share feedback on how they felt the sessions going. Having this in place actually gives me more time to coach and be with my athletes. If you're ready to take your next step in your programming, give more time to your athletes, head over to teambuilder.com and use promo code PAChalkup, that's PACHALQUP, and start your 30-day free trial. Nice. I've always wanted to ask this. What was it like going from like the Marine Corps to like a more strength and conditioning based, more method based sort of programs to what you had in the Marine Corps?
I mean, the Marine Corps is kind of where we kind of, when I was getting out in 2012, CrossFit was kind of the last 2 years was kind of taking over the training of what we were doing. Um, but it was a big shift as far as getting out, getting into personal training, and then finding my way into strength and conditioning and finding programming, the differences in programming, and the different following different coaches and sitting and meeting with coaches and just understanding, you know, just the levels to it. And for me, that was like the fascinating part, and just realizing, man, in the military before even CrossFit was, we'd go out, we'd run 3 miles, do some push-ups, some pull-ups, and then clean up and then go on or whatever it was, or go for a ruck or something. But it was very minimal weight training stuff, unless we just had free time and we'd go on our own. So yeah, it was definitely just a kind of a cool way to find my way, and looking back, going, man, we could have been doing things so much better, so much
Hmm.
more efficient. But yeah, no, definitely a change up.
Yeah. What's your thoughts now on the more sort of tactic side of strength and conditioning now coming into sort of the Marines, the armies, the
It's interesting because the military makes things difficult. Like, it's just what it is. Like, get the government involved trying to do things. So you're dealing with some with contracts that are contract based, some that are GS, which means they're government employees. Um, but the idea of it is great. The military needed. I think when you talk about trying to keep service members like operational ready, keeping their readiness up and at a high percentage, definitely needed.
Mhm.
Big push in the right direction, try to lower those musculoskeletal injuries and things like that, right? So awesome. And then for the career side of it, for the strength coaches, I think it's just opened up so many doors, because financially it just pays so much better than you look at most collegiate settings and things like that. So it
Mhm.
just opens up a new door for strength coaches. So I think both parties end up winning with the pay for the strength coaches, and then also the military gets to benefit from having subject matter experts. So
Yeah. I think this is like, and again, I always joke that there's this massive difference between the US and the UK. But one thing that I will always say is like the way that the US does their sports programs, the strength and conditioning, and the wide range of roles within that. Like a lot more countries need to take that into sort of considerations when it comes to building out their athletes. Like in in the UK, there's Bucks, which is like the collegiate setting. But like even then, like if you're not a level 1 Bucks, you're just an athlete. Like you're a student that does sports. So
Right.
like I've always admired the way that the US do it because I mean there's no hiding the fact that you are great at sports when we get to the world stages because you have all these sort of steps. In terms of like developing the athlete, and you kind of touched on that you do youth and high school all the way up to adults. What's the sort of principal differences that you have for the different age groups?
Yeah, I mean, you start looking at the younger kids, like elementary level, it's active play, getting them moving, getting them to experience their bodies and kind of learn to use their bodies just freely, right? Not trying to put them in a box right away. The middle school starts to take some of that active play, move them into something a little bit more, starting to build on the movement patterns, and then start working them into building them, preparing them for that progression into that high school group now. So they're going to start finding their way into the weights and going through the patterns and learning the things. And then, and really what we do is just take like the long-term athletic development model, right? And that's what we try to apply in our facility here. And then when you get to the high school levels, again, we're just building on that and trying to build better athletes, but it's nothing fancy. It's keeping it simple. We're trying to take kids, and we have kids in our groups that, I mean, I have a high school boy in one of my groups that can bench 105 pounds. And in that same group, I got a high school boy that can bench 315 pounds. So
Nice.
being able to take a group like that and work and kind of help everybody at the same time, but at the same time, they're not all at the same level. They're
Mhm.
all maturing differently. And you see that all the way through. And then when you get into our adult population, it's really, again, looking at them as individuals. And we run 3 adult groups a day, and it's modification. So you'll see we may have some type of lunge variation, and then we'll have 3 or 4 different people doing different lunge variations or split squat variations, or they may be bilateral depending on
Mhm.
injuries or whatever, because our age group will range in our facility. In our 9 a.m. group, we can have a 30-year-old and a 72-year-old in that same group. So again,
Yeah.
it's just kind of, as a coach, you're on the move, you're having to think on the fly and make adjustments and know your population that you're working with.
How has the adaptability piece reigned over that program where you are getting like someone that's like 20 years younger than the one next to him in that workout?
Yeah, no, it's, what, as a coach, it really makes it fun because you got to be on, you got to be sharp, you got to be ready for it. And the adult members, like high school kids, they're just going to do what you tell them to do, right? Like they're young, they look at you, you tell them it's gospel, that's going.
Hmm.
The adults are going to question things, and if you're not
Have an
making the
answer.
modifications and you're not doing the things for them, they're asking questions, and it keeps you on your toes. But as a coach, it's fun because it's every group, every session you do is different because you're making those modifications, making things different for somebody than somebody else. And then you get the questions too of like, people are genuinely interested in learning. So you'll have the adult members that are questioning, going, well, why are they doing that instead? It's like, well, so and so has a shoulder injury or something, and we're just modifying this for them, and they're like,
Hmm.
oh, and they're like, oh, and you find out like different things, but it's just for the individuals, it just works so well. But as a coach, it's fun because it's just, like I said, it's just always changing. Every group is different. And it just kind of keeps you like, it's nice here. We have physical therapists in our facility as well.
Nice.
So we have 2 physical therapists that are outstanding, and working with them, we kind of join a lot of times with our our members that are like, if they have an injury, if they have something, we'll send them to our physical therapy. Our physical therapy gets patients, and they'll push them to us as well. So we get that crossover. But working with them, kind of taking our exercise database for them, and then for them bringing that physical therapy side in with us, and it just
Hmm.
blends really well with what we have in the facility. So it's kind of, I won't, it's not unique. I mean, you look at like an Exos or any of these big private facilities, they're doing a lot of the same things, but being part of a health system, Just kind of makes a creates a cool little space with what we have.
Mhm. In terms of with the maturation levels with your athletes, obviously some will grow at different rates than others. How are you sort of adapting their programs to fit their current needs, and how does that progress throughout their growth?
Yeah, so I mean, with that, I mean, you know, I always look at exercises and can a kid do a push up, right? Kind of the
Mhm.
simple, can he or can he not do a push
I
up?
love that you said that.
It's like I'm not going to put them on a barbell if they can't do a push up yet. Um, it's just little things like that, looking at where they're at. But the thing with kids too is like high school kids, especially, they don't like to be well. And I have male and female in the same group, but some kids don't like to be. They feel like they're being isolated if they're pulled out of an exercise. So, kind of like as a coach, being mindful of who the athlete is,
Mm,
where they're at, and then trying to work with them and kind of get them to understand and to buy into why I'm modifying what they're doing. Like, okay, the group of 10 may be doing X. I want you doing Y. And that's because, well, we can't do a push up yet. And I want you to build the base to be able to do that. I
mm,
don't want you just pushing a bar to push a bar if we can't even push the bar all the way up. So just kind of helping them understand where they're at, and that every time they come into the weight room, you're not looking at everybody else. You're not competing with everybody else. We're just trying to get better. And I'm just trying to help
yeah,
my athletes understand that individually, I just want you in 9, 10 weeks to be better than you were 9, 10 weeks before.
yeah.
And working with
Is
them, I
that
think that's the big part.
mhm. With the LTAD sort of principle? Do you make them aware of the different levels that there is to it? So, like, if you're just starting out, I want you to control your body first. Then we get into some more of the fundamental sort of movements, and then we'll progress you into adding some weight, some bilateral, some unilateral, and building out from there.
Yeah, no, definitely. There's definitely some explanations for that. Especially when you have the kids like you look at the middle school group, these kids that are preteen, early teenagers, kind of that 11 to 13-year olds that puberty is hitting at. Some are
Different speeds.
firing on all cylinders, some aren't even close to it, and you'll have a 6 foot kid and a 4'10" kid, and it's just it's so the gap and based on where they're at is so different, right? So it is important to keep explaining to these kids and letting them know where they're at and why we're doing this. And really, it's not even so important to explain it to them. Like, it's
Mhm.
nice they get it. It's more so for the parents. The parents are usually the ones that think their kid's going to be like, well, they need to be doing this. Ex professional athletes doing this, they need to be doing this. Well, they're in a different stage and train to train and train to compete versus these kids that aren't. You know, they're
Yeah.
they're not even they're like we're still really early in their
There's
athletic
still a
development.
big difference in training age as well.
Right. So it's letting the parents understand. And I would say parents more times than not are very understanding. Once you kind of explain that, it's like, okay.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, I think it's more important for
Some
the parents to understand.
yeah, some aren't though. I've had an experience where I was working at a local pool when I was like younger, and there was a parents that walked in with a 1 to 2 year old, and they were like, "Oh, they're going to be in the Olympics when they grow up, so I need them to start swimming now." And we were kind of like, "Well, there's a lot of factors that go into this. That's not guaranteed, and we don't do that age group."
Yeah, we get a lot of those of the young kids that try to come in. They want to do personal training, and that's just not for us. That's not what we're going to do. We don't
Mhm.
believe in that. We're not going to push for that. We're not going to take somebody's money just for that.
And I think that's the important sort of ethos to have is like, I'm going to make sure I develop your athlete or your kids the best way possible. Yes, it'll take a while, but once they get there, it'll be there for their life. Me, I had Ray Zingler on, and he talks about like he's not just building athletes, he's building humans.
Yeah, we're building
And
people. Yeah.
it's the kind of human that at the end of the night closing up the office. Are they going to walk past the light switch, or are they going to turn back and turn off every single time? That's the kind of humans I'm building. Is the ones that turn back and want to get that extra rep, that extra time with their managers or bosses or whatever, just to get that little bit extra.
Yeah, no, it's that's the thing is, we're trying to help these kids grow and build into these good athletes and make them a better athlete than what they are, right? Like strength and conditioning is the low hanging fruit in becoming a better athlete, right? But at the end of the day, how many of these kids are going to go play collegiate sports? How many of these kids are going to go beyond that and play a professional sport?
Mm,
It just
very
gets
little.
smaller and smaller. At the end of the day, this is a tool. I want them to learn, not just, I don't want them to go through the motions when they come into the weight room over the 4 years I have a kid or 5 years I have a kid. It's like, I hope they come in, understand why they're doing what they're doing, understand the exercises and the way we program things, ask questions. And for me, it's at the end of the day, when you leave here and you graduate and sports are done, and now you have a tool in your tool bag to help you live a longer, healthier life, to take care of yourself, whether you're in the corporate world, whether you're whatever you decide to do, right? You have a tool that you can help take care of yourself and help you live a healthier life. And that's to me at the end of the
100%.
day, like Ray. I mean, I know Ray as well, and he's a awesome dude, and I believe exactly what he's saying, and that is that what I hope I can influence these kids a little bit to be a little better humans
Mhm.
and to have a tool to be healthier.
I've been following Ray for a long ass time, and he's someone that I'm just constantly like, the way that his brain operates is fucking different.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
even
no,
with his own kids, it's like he's even they have to pay the man. Like this man doesn't exist, but they're fucking paying him, and I love it.
yeah, no, I mean it's the same. I mean, I have a 13-year-old daughter that trains in my group at the school that I'm at right now, and she loves doing it. So it's kind of one of those things where it's really awesome to see that like my wife trains, I train, and it's to our three kids now to see our oldest one's really into it. Our youngest one wants to mimic everything we do.
Mhm,
If we go to we have a garage gym, and if she always wants to come with us and just hang out in there and then follow us around and copy us. And it's cool. It's just, and the same thing that Ray's doing, it's just setting the example, right? And living, not
mhm,
just setting the example, living the example and being it. That you hope that they pick up on the same things that, and that it's not I just don't like the idea of training and being strong, being is something that's hard and
mhm.
miserable. It's like, no, we get to do this. Like, this is fun.
It's
Like,
fun,
it
yeah.
doesn't suck to be strong.
Mhm. And and the thing is as well is like I always say that I don't have any kids yet, but when I do, like again, monkey see, monkey do. If I'm constantly putting out the right message to them, at some point they'll follow suit because that's what they see their mom and dad's doing. And I can presume that's what your kids are seeing a mom and dad that's strong as hell, going into the gym, putting on some suffering, but the outcomes of that suffering help you with consistency, help you with your mental clarity, just help you get on with life a little bit easier. So as soon as they start doing it, they're feeling, oh, okay, like I'm actually quite strong. And especially with girls, like when they start seeing little tonages, little biceps on them, they're like, fuck yeah, I'm strong. And they just have that confidence to go out on life and do a little bit extra than what they're like like meant to do. Like I always find that strong females are fucking some of the most powerful women alive.
Yeah, no, having three daughters, I think generally most like strength coaches, like, you train the guys, like you want to work with football, right? It's all the guys, it's guys, guys, guys. Um, it's fun to work with football guys, all that. But in the last, I'd say 5 years, finding like the young female athletes to see that light switch go off that where they're like,
Hmm.
oh, I'm strong. Oh, I can lift as much as some of the boys. Oh, like watching my 13-year-old who's, she just PR'd with a 215 back squat and a 170 front squat.
Damn.
And you're like looking at her and looking at the boys that she's training with, and she's stronger than some of them. And you're like, all right, like, but she's looking at them going, if you're stronger than me, it's not going to be for long. I'm coming for you.
Mhm.
She's already like setting goals. She's like, Dad, I want to do this. I want to get this number now. And it's like finding those numbers to chase, and she enjoys it. But it's just cool. It's just like man, okay, we're doing something right.
Yeah, and I think that's it's always set an example, and we're not just coaches; we're teachers and we're leaders. The influence that we have over our kids, athletes, adults, whatever it is, it's not really seen in many other industries apart from with the coaching one, where for that hour or two or however long their contact time is, like you are solely in charge of their performance, whether they do good or bad. you still have to manage those emotions and be like, okay, today sucked, we lost, but hey, there's always fucking next week.
Yep. It's tomorrow. There's next week. It's always, yeah, no, definitely. I think we wear many hats as a coach, right? Like you said, like a leader, a coach. But I think, you're almost part therapist as well, because some of these
Hmm.
kids, or athletes, were at any level, they're going through an injury, dealing with helping them mentally deal with that. Personal lives, you're helping them cope through hard times, and it's just, as a coach and as for all my athletes here, it's like they know I'm always, if they ever need to talk, just somebody to talk to, like I'm always there for them for that too. It's not,
Hmm.
there's a lot more than just training, right? To me, I'm like, the training is, it's the fun part that we do. Yeah, but it's a small part of the big picture of
Hmm.
what we're trying to build.
It's the whole idea of the open door policy, and I have it too, where it gives you the athletes that sense of anything that you've got going on here for you to talk to about it, and like it's something that I've spoken many episodes before, but it's like, how do we create that? Well, we need to invest a little bit of our time. Oh, your older athletes. Hey, what were you up to, coach, at the weekend? Actually, I was having a bit of a. There was an event on. I had a couple to drink. I had a couple extra to drink, and the next day was a write off. Like that will help them be like, okay, coach is actually he can hang. So I'll engage in his conversation. I'll tell him a bit more about myself, and then it creates that door for you to have that relationship with your athletes.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's big. I think having that, being able to build relationships in this field, because that's, somebody wants to train with you, it's because of who you are.
Hmm.
I would say it's a bigger piece than what you know, is who you are as a person that they want to work with. Are you the type of coach that can drive them to do more? You
Hmm.
know, it's not like, I always say, like, you could take a really basic program and a really good coach could coach that same program and drive a lot more out of somebody than
Yep.
a coach just going through the motions, just kind of like, okay, just do it.
Hmm.
But somebody that pours their heart into that program and gets them to believe in it and gets them to want to do it, not just for them but for you as well, and it just becomes this big, relationship between you and the athlete and the program, and everything just works so much more like harmoniously when you're, everybody's bought
Hmm.
into it. But it's that investment, right? Like I got to invest
100%.
for them to invest into me.
100%. Missy Mitchell Macbeth was said it the best way possible is you have to give a shit. Like you
Yep.
have to give a shit about their athletes. The mood swings that some might have, like they lost at the weekend, you're probably having to deal with a little bit of repercussions for that. But hey, let's talk about it. What happened? And it's that, like you said, that psychology piece in the weight room is very important to consider because you're not dealing with lab rats and you're not dealing with robots. Like on the textbooks, you have to do this, 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 and this. If you don't, everyone's going to explode.
Right.
It's not like that.
Well, now things are so differently too, because you look at, okay, high school kid or a college kid, right? Same kind of difference coming in, but you're looking at social pressures,
Mm,
social media. You're looking at life things going on in their life, family, relationships, all that stuff, schooling, right? Like might be finals week, they might be going stressed out, not doing so well in a class, but all these things, they can all storm at one time,
mm,
and they come into the weight room. You may have them for an hour, hour and a half, or whatever it is, and that might be their one little break, and their performance may reflect all that going
mm-hmm,
on. But you can also help if it's toning it down, if it's just giving them what they need to kind of get their, and you can spot those things, right? Like a kid when they're a happy-go-lucky kid and they come in and one day they're just a little off, right? Like as a coach, you have to see those things, and
mm-hmm,
it's on you, and that's where those relationships come in, because if you don't have those relationships built, you're not going to see that, and especially when you're
100%.
dealing with a lot of kids. And it's, but the hope is to be able to catch on and identify those kids when they're kind of down, or if there's something else.
Mm-hmm,
Even if it's a simple, hey, after the workout, like, is everything good? just,
mm-hmm,
just a quick question, right? Like, to show that you care, but also like there might be more, like, I didn't sleep last night, coach. Okay, well, everything else good? Like, something going on? Like, you need to talk? Like, no, I'm good. Okay.
mm-hmm,
Well, hey, I'm here if you need me, right? Like, it's as simple as that. It doesn't have to be anything. You don't have to pry. It's just kind of the simple feeler questions. And I think the more you do that, and when, you're going to get those athletes that are going to
Hmm.
ask, "Hey, coach,
I
can I talk?" It's like, "Yeah, let's go."
100%. I always talk about like the fist bump, and it's something so simple, but you can get so much feedback from it. Like I always start a session with a fist bump, and depending how much engagement that fist bump gets, if like they're good, they'll give me a solid one where I'm like, there's some umph behind it. But if they come in and they like lightly tap me, I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you today? Like, what's going on with you? And
Right.
then it's sort of like I don't always say swear words. It depends on the age groups that I'm with. Like I'll make a little joke of the way I'll ask it, so that they're a little bit thrown off. They're like, "Okay, I'm not. Wait, what did you just say?" And it sort of snaps them out of whatever there's that's going on, and you're kind of like, "I am here to talk. Like we've been with each other for a while. Like yesterday, yeah, yesterday, I've got an adult client that she's been having a shit time at work, and we just spent an hour just talking it out, seeing what was happening, ways that we can sort of mitigate some of the onsets from it, and that's all it takes. Is just again give a shit about your athletes, give a shit about your clients. In terms of your PT integration, and I actually love when programs have this integration already in. How does that sort of work through either they come into the PT and then they get recommended to you, or you recommending to the PTs?
So it goes both ways. Like if we have athletes or anybody training in our facility, um, like if they get hurt in their sport or something, right? Like we get kids, hockey kids or football kids that get hurt, we'll always refer them to our physical therapists or our doctors. So we kind of push them that way. It's kind of like because the big thing that we sell here is that, like, well, say you tear your ACL, right? Say a soccer player tears their ACL. They come in, go to our orthopedic surgeons, come back. They come to our physical therapists here at our facility for their rehab. And then we have our SHARP program, which is basically a return to play program. So as they're wrapping up their physical therapy, we start integrating
Mm,
with the strength coach piece, right? And now we're putting them through workouts. They're still seeing their PT, they're seeing us, and we're working, the PT and myself, or the PT and whatever coach is working with them is working together with that PT, communicating what they're seeing in their rehab sessions, what we're seeing in the weight room, and we're just collaborating, making it and getting a nice seamless transition to get them back to their sport as
mm.
quickly and safely as possible. So
Yeah. So
go ahead.
sorry. No, no, you're good.
Oh no, it's you know what, it's a really holistic approach with it, and we have phenomenal physical therapists. I'll always say that the two we get to work with here are awesome, and getting people to understand and kind of work with us and not against us has been
Yeah.
really awesome.
I think that's some of the battles that S&C coaches face is like when is it time to hand over, and like it's that again there's big egos in this industry, and it's like giving that control to the PT to be like, hey, I've got this athlete here, this is what's wrong, like what do you think we should do, like what's the steps from there. um I was at a clinic last no this month earlier this month, and it was a hamstring clinic, but it sort of developed into a little spoiler for everyone. Starting January, I'm coming out with episodes that are from a clinic or a conference that I'm at, and it sort of asks the speakers one question, and we sort of spend 10, 15 minutes on that topic. The question that I sort of ask them is like, what do you think that PTs protocols are good enough to return athletes to their sport, or is there a bigger piece where then the athletes go to the strength coach, and then it's sort of that return to play protocol? So they start with the PT. There's a there's a couple periods where both are working together, and then it's back onto the strength and conditioning to do the return to play protocol. So, can if you want to give me your views on this too?
Yeah, no, I think it's when it's you look at like physical therapy, right? Like when physical therapists go to school, like the exercise piece, they're not going through an extensive exercise education and modifications and all the different realms, right? Like there's not like a lab that they go to do all these.
Periodization models and all that.
Right. So any exercise based stuff is going to be done. You've had experience in a weight room with a sports coach, maybe you've been in a strength conditioning program before, you like training and doing it, but and it's not a knock to physical therapists because they do a phenomenal job of understanding, knowing things. But at the same time, the strength coach, like here, it's like they don't know what they don't know, and we don't know what we don't know. But if we sit there and work together, we can fill the gaps and really help blend that, right? Like if it's like progressions through plyometrics for them, well, where do they start? Well, let's start here and build our way up, and we can start adding, right, going from like a bilateral box jump,
Mm,
and then we can progress to a counter movement jump, and you can make that into, working single hops and bounds, right, with a stick, trying to just get control over it, putting that into motion. And when do you start putting it into motion? What are you looking for? What are the things we're looking for? um, but that's where I think like the strength coach has that coaching eye that
mm,
really helps assist the physical therapist and the athlete beyond physical therapy to get them, you know, right and ready
yeah.
for that sport, getting them to reintroduce
Mm.
sports back to them.
I think like this question was originally brought up from a previous episode with Gianna Sullivan, and it was kind of like there's athletes out here that are returning back to their full paced performance straight after seeing physical therapists, and the the gap between just being able to balance on one leg, say if it's an ACL tear, to then coming onto the field and doing cutting motions, decelerations, accelerations, lateral movements. It's a big jump between balancing and that explosive behavior. So like where do we then are like, okay, I'm the physical therapist, you're the strength coach, let's sit down, program something for them to get reintroduced to those movements, those loads, those sort of more explosive type end range movements.
Right. Yeah. Like you said, it's a big gap from that balance, just balancing on one leg, right? Trying to hold that stability of that knee. And then now we're doing cutting and all that, right? So for me, like I like to really bring in and start introducing part practice for like those cuts,
Mm,
start practicing the different movements that they do. Um, and then building up. And then it's, controlled. And then in sport, everything is uncontrolled, right? So now it's reactionary. Do we build up to, at what point do they look controlled enough in their abilities to do that? Let's start mixing in some reactive stuff, right? And that's where I think, like, yeah, it's like the strength coach part of it is so important to get these kids back because I don't want them to go from
mhm.
getting their range of motion and being able to control their balance. And maybe they can kick their leg hard enough on a machine to test that, okay, they're strong enough to, based on a percentage of their body weight, to go back to sport.
Yeah.
Well, there's so much more to it. And I want to make sure that these athletes are prepared physically and
Hmm.
mentally because it's a mental aspect too. Some of these kids will get hurt just not being mentally prepared to go through the
Hmm.
movement. So they're hesitant to do certain things, and that hesitancy can
They
cost them.
lock up. Yep.
Yep. It can cost
Yeah.
them, in their technique in cutting or running that because they're hesitant to fully drive or extend their leg, and then all of a sudden now we're back to square one.
Yeah. Um, I've previously had Tim um, on, who's a brilliant researcher, and he talks about like this bell curve of like, so say for like the rate of force exertion, the RFD um curve. I'm just messed up. You know what I'm talking about. um but it's like it's driving that isometric strength and then going on to your ballistic strength. Like there's a whole curve that goes in there, so we'll start here, we'll go there. So say isometric, coming out of isometrics, going more into your concentric phases, going on to your jumps, going on to your bounds, going on to your ballistic movements. And it's like it's this whole integration of not just sticking to one method, one principle, and just being like, okay, I'm actually going to take some from the triphasic principle or method, and then I'm going to introduce some of the French contrast. I'm going to introduce some of the tier system, some of the conjugate, some of the, you name it. It's like it's building out this whole program where kids and athletes have the ability to sort of serve this curve and go from injury to then being able to handle those loads and more.
Right. Yeah, no, and It's I've seen kids that are very undertrained with multiple ACL surgeries versus an athlete that's highly trained with an ACL surgery, and just looking at the differences in their training and what we're going to do with them. One, I'm just trying to build a base.
Mm-hmm.
One, it's like, okay, build the base back. Let's get back to where we were and try to build off of that now. But it's just, you can't, that's where I think the strength coach is so important when it comes to the rehab part, is because the ability to work with an individual as that and meet them where they're at.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think that physical therapy, it's always going to end at that, just shy of where it needs to get them back to their sport. And getting them in with a strength coach, or having a strength coach paired with your physical therapy, or a physical therapist that is also a strength coach, whatever it may be, that bridge needs to be there. And I think
Mm-hmm.
it's important, because if I'm talking high school kids to college or pro, or even just an adult that's returning back to life, like, they want to be confident when they leave that
Mm-hmm.
they got the best care that they could have possibly had, right? And I want to make sure that we provide that. So here it's cool when we get one from physical therapy that comes over, that trains with us, that hasn't trained with us. More times than not, they're going to end up staying in our groups and come over and cross over into our training groups that we have, whether high school or our college group or whatever it is, or even our adults that will come over and they'll be like, oh, wow, like, got an adult group I can go to, and there's a lot of different places they could go. But I think that making everything individual for
Mm-hmm.
each athlete or client or whatever it is really makes the difference for them.
100%. And like, it's also not having that thing where if the PTs are recommending something, it's be like, okay, like that's what you're doing. Like, I don't care how much you kick, scream. Like, I want you to do it so that when you do come to me, like, you're ready for everything. It's like those groups are probably so important for them because it gives them that next step and that progressive element to what they were previously doing. Like, it's harder when you're older joining because like there's so much that you've now to learn. But once you learn them, like the newbie gains are great for the motivational factor. Because like for the first month, 2 months, your strength is fucking skyrocketing, and you're just surfing this high wave of like this is great. And it's like that thing where now they're enjoying it. So like I'm going to give you more because you're enjoying it. You're going to progress. You're going to see more, and then it just creates this fundamental return to life for the other adult and for athletes. Is that return to play where then they get to play their sport at the high level that they were before, and they're like, yeah, I did this properly. I'm confident that I can still make those movements.
Yeah, no, it's definitely. I think working with the return to play athletes that I've had some really fun kids to work with, high school kids and kids going into college, and um, for me, seeing the confidence come back, because I feel like when I get them, they're usually in that little bit of a personal slump. They feel like
Mm,
they haven't been doing the things right. Like if it's basketball, they haven't been playing basketball. They haven't been doing the things. Their team's out there playing or practicing. Being sidelined is, if you're a competitor, it's the last place you want to be is on the sideline, right? So that mental, like, but once you kind of get them back in and they're working and they're grinding, and you start to see, and then, okay, start getting into the training and starts progressing, ramping up, get them doing things, and start challenging them with things that they're like, man, like, this shouldn't be that hard. Like, I
mm,
should be doing this in my sleep. And then a few weeks later, month later, they're doing those things that they were like, that was really hard. They're doing them naturally now again, right? Because it's the repetitions building it up, building the mental confidence to go with it. They have the physical strength coming back. Now you got the mental confidence. You've done it. You've practiced it enough, and now you started turning it on. And like I said earlier, it's just kind of getting the reactive. But just seeing the kids, like when they leave and they go back to their sport, and they're just happy to be back, and that's what you want, right? Like at the end of the day, I want them physically confident in their
mm,
body, that they leave and go, oh, I'm ready, and they get on the court and there's
100%.
no questions.
What's some of the principles that you sort of hold out for your program when you're going through the different groups and different ages and then into your adults?
You know, for me, it's always meet them where they're at. That's the one thing I'll always do. I want to meet them where they're at. It's one of those things. I'm not married to a certain program. I'm not married to any type of way. And it's not a lack of belief in any one way. I believe in them all. I think everything, fitness in general, right, is in strength and conditioning. It's like a pizza. I can cut it a million ways and still a pizza. It could be a
Hmm.
triangle, it could be a square. It's still a pizza. Still tastes good. Um, but finding the right way for the right person. Like my 5-year-old, when she was 3, cut her pizzas into little squares. You know, still a pizza. She still
Yeah.
likes it just like I like pizza, and but I think that's for me. At the end of the day, it's just meet them where they're at and help build them to where they want to go. As far as
So
like, I don't need a ton of principles of what it is. It's just
mhm.
really where you at. Let's meet you there and get you to where you want to go.
Yeah. So I always think that people think that that answer is a cop out, and I always challenge them and saying, look, if we're taking a look at the conjugate method, right? That's Louis, that's West Side Barbell, that's you're going balls to wall every single day, right? My athletes don't need that, right?
I'm not building
They'll need
powerlifting.
some elements of it, like
Right.
French contrast. My athletes don't need the whole French contrast method. It's like I go principle based because I can pick and choose elements from each and say, okay, my athletes need this. What methods can I do I have under my belt that I can pick from that can sort of build out what they need as a group, as an athlete, as a solo athlete. And to me, that's always the best answer because like those methods are great for their athletes. For my athletes, they need something better. That doesn't fit with my coaching style. That doesn't fit with what's currently going on in their season. So I like when coaches say that because it then builds out a bigger answer. Like you meet where they are, and it's we've kind of spoken this channel before, and it's like when athletes and we've kind of touched on it before. Like when your athletes come in, like you need this kind of dimmer. Like you need to match with their energy and like bring it up or bring it down. So you kind of need to dim yourself to be like, okay, he's going super hype. Like we don't need that energy for their warm up. Let's bring them down a little bit. Or if they're really low, we need to fucking brighten this up so they can do their session. We need to hype them up so they can go through the whole session. But the same thing applies to the program. Like, what do they need? What's their imbalances? The whole goal of strength and conditioning is to create the most balanced athlete possible so that they can adapt to whatever circumstances happen within their performance. In theory, that's what we do.
Yeah, no, exactly. I'm trying to fill the cups that need to be filled, right?
Yep.
Like at the end of the day, and every athlete's different. I could have 30 kids in here and they're going to have different deficiencies.
I mean, you mentioned it before. Like one athlete is 115, the other one's benching 300 or squatting 300.
Right. It's just a big gap, and you can't treat them all the same, right? Like when it comes to training, I can't throw the same
Mm-hmm.
things at them.
Prescription.
You're right. I can't throw the same prescription at them. It's very much like medicine. Different doses for different folks based off their size, their strength, or whatever it is. Right. Um, yeah. No. I think that's what I love about this, though, is that like, and I think any coach that coaches enjoys that is that the challenges, right? It's like a puzzle. You're
Mm-hmm.
trying to fill the fill the puzzle, right? You just build it. Start with the borders, and you start working your way in, filling the gaps, and finding out what they need. And in one population, like we may have a hockey team, high school hockey team that we train, or a high school basketball team. Their deficiencies and their gaps are different from group to group. And then within that group, you're going to have little subgroups based off of possible positions, age
Mm-hmm.
groups that are going to vary. And for us, it's our job to kind of take it, and now it's like, okay. And when I start a program, I may have written a program, but 2, 3 weeks into that program, I might be sitting there going, looking at a few of the accessory lifts that I have and changing things up because I'm going, or for an individual, it might be going, hey, you know what? Let's change this for you. You're going to get more out of this, and you need this more than you need that. And those little
The
things,
prime example with hockey is the goalies. The amount of internal rotation they have on their knees, crazy.
well, just look at the position that they're constantly in, right? And then
Yeah.
the way they pivot side to side and all that. And it's just, we have a lot of hockey players in here in North Dakota, and the same thing, the goalies. And then, but even just, I mean, watch a hockey player run. You could tell who skates year round.
Mm. It's just like
Yeah, the legs start flaring out, and and those things, and it's like trying to correct those. Like people go, "Why are you wasting your time trying to correct their running form?" Well, their
Mm.
hips are going to thank me for it. That's why. Like those little things, like just because I don't want them mimicking everything they do, like they're on the ice.
Yeah.
So
In terms of the speed development aspect of it, like what's your methods behind how you build out that phase of their programs?
yeah, so like I'm just talking like my high school kids. I mean, we're going to sprint multiple days a week. Um, I don't get too into the weeds of building like sprinters, right? Like unless I'm
Mm.
specifically working with the track team and just doing certain things, but overall, I want to build good mechanically sound runners, right?
Mm.
So with that and sprinting and building up, and we start with the heavy sled push, building the position, the wall drills, building the position, especially at our younger ages, trying to just get them to understand the position we want them in, the leg drive, the way their legs are cycling um, through and everything. So in their stride and everything. So building that out early, working those little things, and then just building up into the full sprint and into the different stages. And whether it's a max effort day and acceleration day, we're working those different parts.
Mm.
Now, in my facility, in the facility here with the health system I'm at, we have about 35 yards of track. So we're a little limited on how
Distance
far we
coverage,
can
yeah.
run, right? And then at the school that I'm at, we have about 27, 30 yards of turf. And again, and at the end of it, we have assault bikes. So you're a little limited on how far. So most of our sprints are going to be those 10, 15-yard flies. Um,
Just building out the initial acceleration phase.
yeah, more so until we can get like right now, snow on the ground. We're not going to get on the football field and be able to, sprint 20, 40 yards until the summertime or spring or summertime to really. And spring just depends on if winter decides to hang around a little longer or not. So
That's something we were talking about before the podcast started. Is Scotland versus North Dakota?
yeah, little different. But yeah, so it's like we may have a spring. Like last spring, we had a really early spring where I think in the 5 years I've been in North Dakota, that's the first time we've had a spring.
Mm.
So it didn't go from winter to summer. And so it's just kind of what you're able to do, especially with like the track season in the spring coming up. It's kind of like
Mm.
that hard. Like you get the kids running through the hallways on cement flooring because that's all we have, to try to
Yeah.
open up some distances to run hurdles, start practicing the hurdle stuff. Being in the school we're at is a small rural school. So obviously we don't even have our own track to run around. So it's kind of hard to kind of makeshift what they can do and modify and try to work on limiting injuries based off of these kids start running on cement inside the
Mm.
hallways. Shin splints are going to happen. How do we minimize that? How do we build them up for that before we start getting them going full speed? Things you got to look at and considerations you got to take in with that. So
Yeah. In terms of advice that you'd give new strength coaches or coaches coming into the industry, what would be your go-tos for them?
I would say seek out as many mentors as you can. I think having the more mentors, the better. The more people that you can go to and have in your corner, people that you can pick up a phone and call, ask a question, or anything like that. I think that's your seek out mentors. There's a lot of people out there that have a lot of knowledge that have
Mm.
done everything that you're trying to do and can tell you, and you can hopefully cut out some of those learning curves that they went through. It's like with my
100%.
kids. I try to tell my kids things all the time, and they got to do it the hard way. It's like, well, we're older. Let's be a little smarter and reach out to the people that I know can help me. Like I don't want to learn the hard way if I don't have to now. It's like so that would be my
100%.
big thing. Go out,
I
seek
always
mentors.
Yeah, I always talk about like mentors aren't just good for the S&C world. Like they're good for different aspects of your job from then on. Like we were kind of speaking offline as well. Like this year's been a big business focused year for me. Like I have business mentors that I can reach out to and be like, "Hey, this is what I'm currently doing. Like, what's your thoughts and feelings towards this being my next move?" And then they could be like, "Oh, that's it's quite a cool nice move," or "That's dumb as fuck, abort."
Right.
And I'm like, got it.
Well, I mean, mentors. I mean, a strength coach mentor or a business mentor. I mean, they can cross over too. And you know what? The friendships that are built for like my first mentor in the strength and conditioning field. Still friends with them. I'm still, and it's not just. I mean, I think more times than not, it's not even strength and conditioning related.
Hmm.
It's life related. So yeah, I just think building those relationships, building those things. Then when you go places, when you see them at a conference or whatever it is, it's you have those people to connect with, and then that just opens up your web to more people to connect with. And our business, the relationships and the connections are everything, especially for job opportunities. The more people you know, the more people that know you, it's easier to get your foot in the door. It's easier to get out there. Um, but yeah, no, I mean, here I am in North Dakota talking to a guy in what's
Scotland.
it
Yeah.
called? In Scotland. I was going to say Ireland, Scotland.
Kind of.
But no, it's cool. It's just yeah, that's the big thing I always say. Get a
Yeah.
mentor and get multiple, and because they're going to teach you, especially in the strength and conditioning field, the different ways that
Different
people do
strokes for
things,
different
right?
folks. Yeah.
Yeah, well, but I mean, get a taste of everything. I don't want to see the same thing and live in an echo chamber. Learn one thing and live in that echo chamber. If I never got out and saw a different coach or got another mentor that taught me something differently, had a different mindset, now I'm sitting there and looking at all the things I have, and like we talked about earlier about having, different styles of training and principles. It's like, well, for different situations, like you said,
Hmm.
different strokes for different folks. I have different tools to take into my training, into my just allows me to offer my clients more than what I had before.
100%.
And I
Yeah.
think that's, at the end of the day, if I want to help people to have more knowledge, to have more people in my corner that I can reach out to, if there's something I don't know, who's that
100%. I
person?
always say like you should look at the S&C mentorship styles. Like I could use a back squat, and this is a very simplified explanation, but I can look at a back squat for posterior chain. You can look at a back squat for core control, and we will learn the differences by talking to each other and by explaining. Oh, hey, I use posterior chain because when you think about like the movement, you're kind of this way, go down, go up. It's targeting the hamstrings. You could be like, yeah, but if you squeeze your core and you pretend like there's a pea inside your booty hole, like you're fucking aiming for core control. And like the way that we communicate this is what makes us grow in this industry. Is like let's talk about like why we use these specific principles, methods, exercises in the order that we do, because it builds out this whole system for why to do things a certain way.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, I agree. It's definitely one of those things where we all just learn and get to be better. So,
No,
and, I,
perfect. If
and our
you
go ahead.
no, you're good.
Oh no, I was going to say in our field, like you said, there's the personality sometimes could be clashing. People are stuck to their opinions, and it's but the more you sit with coaches and talk, and it's you start to hear what they're saying. I think it builds those bridges of like people think somebody's married to something based off of what they saw on
Mhm.
Instagram, right, or on a post. Like, oh, that's the way they believe. They're just that. Then you start talking to
Yeah.
it. It's like no, there's a lot more depth to it. You're
Hmm.
just getting a little glimpse of it on social media, and you can learn so much more by getting past that front door and kind of digging down that rabbit hole.
100%. I think what you've just said is very important to sort of highlight and is listen to each other. Like it sounds so simple, but like you can get into this again, like you said, the echo chamber of, oh, I do this, so anything that you say is wrong because you don't do it the way I do it. It's kind of like, but let me listen as to why you're doing it. Like, let's explore the whys and the hows, as opposed to being like, sort of like offended and being stuck in my opinion because that's what I've been built out to represent or whatever it is.
Right.
Yeah. No, if you let people know where they can find you and sort of ask any questions as well,
Um, I don't even know my Instagram.
I'll fill it
It
up.
is Coach
Coach
Kyle
Kyle's.
Cass.
Yep.
Yeah. I was like, I don't even know. That's basically where I'm at. I'm not on Twitter. I'm not on the other things. So I don't. Yeah, you can just find me there. I don't have a YouTube. But yeah, you can find me on Kyle Cass or Coach Kyle Cass, and anything I'm usually posting things about my athletes or training or my kids. So
Perfect. No, I really do appreciate you for coming on and sort of chatting out some of the way that you program and deal with your athletes. It was awesome.
yeah, thanks, Manny. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you. Peace.